works.
Okay, counting down.
1,
2,
3,
4, 5, 6,
7.
Hello. Do you know where America gets the majority of its oil from? Has anyone ever looked into the destruction of our ecosystem due to strip mining and oil sands drilling? This action is a testament to Big Oil's unlimited greed and determination to keep America addicted to oil. Dr. Leakey, author of The Sixth Extinction, believes that 50% of our Earth species will vanish within 100 years, and that such a dramatic and overwhelming mass extinction threatens the entire complex fabric of life, including Homo sapiens, the species responsible for this devastation. This is Alberta, Canada, before oil sands drilling started. It's considered to be the most pristine ecosystem on the planet, with rolling glacial hills, rolling rivers, beautiful forests, and this is what it looks like now. This is a before picture and an after picture. And this is some of the animals that are threatened. The moose are drinking from tailings ponds that are filled with toxic chemicals, and they're dying. Well, Alberta, Canada, considered one of the most undeveloped, pristine ecosystems on the planet. The northeastern portion of the Canadian province is blanketed with thousands of square miles of magnificent forests. But today, hundreds of miles of this vastly diverse ecosystem has been so irreparably destroyed that scientists agree that it could never be restored. This is Canada's oil sands drilling and strip mining operation. The Canadian oil sands is the second largest in the world behind Saudi Arabia. But unlike Saudi Arabia, Canada's oil sands is layers of tar mixed with sand and clay. Wastewater from mining operations eventually becomes a contaminated slurry spewed into great tailings lakes that to date can an unbelievable 50 square miles. Scientists estimate that as much as 3 million gallons of this highly toxic wastewater seep into the groundwater daily to provide one of the dirtiest of all fossil fuels. Oil sands operations in 2007 generated about 40 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. This is the equivalent of the pollution from 10 million cars, making oil sands Canada's ground zero for global warming. Canada imports nearly 800,000 barrels of oil a day into the United States, and they plan on tripling their imports by the year 2020. The damage from the oil sands have endangered wildlife, fish, moose. Recently, 500 migratory birds, this is just within the last couple weeks, were found on the tailing ponds covered in oil. And what happens to the bird once it gets covered in oil? It just sinks and dies. They recovered probably 3. They were able to save only about 3 of the birds. Any animal that drinks out of these tailing ponds dies. Humans are dying. Humans are dying with cancer in Alberta, Canada. And the government is doing absolutely nothing about it. And I don't know if you guys have been watching the news. They don't really talk a lot about it in America. But there's a project where Canada wants to take and build a pipeline from this through the United States all the way to Texas. Now, if we have a natural disaster that comes through and that some pipeline gets destroyed, all of those toxic chemicals are going to be in our water supply and destroy our ecosystem, our wildlife, and destroy us. So what should people do? People should start putting citizens first. Money and the oil sands. Oil sands are just too big of a price to pay. The United States federal government stands to make $70 billion from the oil sands in taxes by the year 2020. And the Alberta government will make $40 billion in taxes. Here's some quotes from Simon Dyer, the director of the Pembina Institute. We have a lot of information about the health and effects on wildlife, major impacts on wildlife populations through the loss of habitat. Woodland cattle herds have been devastated by 50% in northeastern Alberta over the past decade as a result of oil sands development. There's been decline in the birds and other mammal species. That this is obviously a big concern for the United States and for Canada. A quote from Tony Boschman. He used to work for the government of Alberta as an environmental inspector. He states, "It's a big, huge wrong, and this probably is criminal activity going on. To suppress a report, if it doesn't happen and nobody sees it, it's like a tree falling in a forest. Nobody sees it, so nobody cares. Nobody hears the tree fall, so nobody cares." That's how he describes the Alberta government. The Environmental Minister of Canada, Rob Brenner, stated in the legislature that it is not the job of Alberta Environment to act as an advocate for the environment. There's lots of money being made, lots of people's pockets being greased, and they're trying to bring it to the states. November 11th of this year, 12,000 people surrounded the White House and held hands and walked in a circle because Obama was getting ready to either say yes or no to the pipeline, and they were there protesting. Greenpeace went up to Alberta with their little trucks and their signs, and they stood in front of everybody. They chained themselves to the equipment, and these huge trucks with tires the size of this room almost just ran over those white trucks that Greenpeace had. There's people in the Alberta, Canada legislature that used to work for Suncor, the company that's doing the drilling and mining. And they got elected into the legislature, and they're agreeing with everything that Suncor does. Suncor is still paying their salary, even though they work for the Alberta government. The Alberta government doesn't have to pay them. It's a very, very huge crisis that America's in right now. And there's a lot of people that are aware, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. As you can see, there's little kids here protesting with signs. Here's a group of people. This is a group of people that was up in Washington on November 11th. So, a lot of dirty energy is being subsidized by hidden tax benefits and by access to public lands for free. It is subsidy by people's lungs and by their own bodies when the water and the air that they depend on becomes a dumping ground for private investment. In conclusion, I'd like to point out that these tar sands are dangerous to our health, your children's health, your future generations' health, and to the health of our wildlife. I've showed you today the total lack of care by the Alberta government. It's all about money. They do not care about their environment. They have destroyed the most pristine ecosystem that we had on this planet for money, for oil. And the people in the United States should be geared towards trying to go to wind energy, solar energy. That's what a lot of the Greenpeace and the people who are protesting, that's what they're saying. Why can't we have solar energy? Why do you have to do this to us? And the government is $70 billion, that's what's in their head, and that they're going to make. So I've shared with you the degradation to our environment that the oil sands are causing. The toxins that are being released into the air and our water supplies is astronomical. I have a list of some of the chemicals, and I might not pronounce them correctly because they're very long words, but this is just a few of the chemicals that are being released into the water supply. One of them is called naphthalinic acid, polar and saturated hydrocarbons, asphaltenes, benzene, phenols, creosotes, phthalates, toluene, lead, mercury, arsenic, nickel, vanadium, chromium, and selenium. These are just a few. And I don't think that Americans can really survive, or that Canadians can really survive this crisis unless someone speaks up and does something about it. Thank you.